the key thing was that Paul, Alan, and I had loved working on software since we were lucky enough to be exposed. Literally, I was 13 in 8th grade when this time-sharing terminal came in, and we just did it day and night and got better. And we could see that the magic of software combined with this miracle of the microprocessor, subject to Moore's law, exponential improvement, that was a magic combination. And we'd look around and say, hey, how come everybody's not saying this is amazing? I mean, we're going to dethrone IBM, and why doesn't Digital Equipment get it? Why is the guy who runs it, this is a company that's long gone, but dominated mini computers at the time, why isn't that guy up there saying it's wrong? We know it's right. And so the key event for us was, it was a very cold Boston winter, and a kit computer came out on this popular electronics magazine, and we said, oh, damn, this is happening without us. I mean, here we are doing nothing. And so we called the company up and said, hey, we're ready. And then we called them back. We actually did the work, and then we called them back and said, how do you make the stuff go in and out of the computer, the I/O? And they said, well, that's interesting. Nobody else has ever asked that. You must really be doing something. So that was, anyway, our very first customer. And so we grabbed onto it to be the very first. And we were the first to say there should be a software industry and come and do it. In a sense, it was one of the lower risk things I've ever done in my life because, I could have always gone back. Well, my dad didn't say, hey, if you go away for a few years, I'll stop paying for your education. They were nice and said, okay, go, learn your lesson down there in the desert, and then you get back to the serious stuff, and we're still waiting.
As number one on the list, we were talking to Steve Case yesterday, and he had been number one, and a couple of years later, he was not on the list.
Well, you're making me really nervous.
No, don't be nervous. Just tell me what could happen that would do that to you and Amazon, and how do you prevent that? Do you worry it could all come unraveled?
Well, I kind of have this experience kind of already happened to me because you put me on the cover of Time Magazine as Person of the Year in 1999, and about a year later, the internet bubble burst. I think Amazon stock went from $113 a share to $6 or something like that. So these things happen. The thing for companies is you need to be nimble and robust. So you need to be able to take a punch, and you also need to be quick and innovative and doing new things at a high speed. That's the best defense against the future. And you have to always be leaning into the future. If you're leaning away from the future is going to win every time. Never, ever, ever lean away from the future.
If you're going to try something innovative, then you're in unexplored territories, so that odds that something will go wrong are pretty high. It's only if you try to do something that is already well understood that there's a little chance of failure, but then it will not be interesting or innovative. For sure, uncharted territory will result in failures necessarily. Otherwise, you're not trying hard enough.
I know that one of the things that's made me successful in my life is making it a priority to control my thoughts. Like, what am I thinking about? Like, literally putting discipline in on how I talk to myself. And so I don't want this to sound all psychobabble stuff. It's not like, oh, if you just stand in the mirror and talk to yourself and say positive things, everything's going to be all right. That's not true. Be careful what you say to yourself, okay? Because if you're saying a $30 steak is a lot of money, or a $4 toy is a lot of money when your kid wants a $4 toy, listen to what you're saying. That's a lot of money. Dude, if $4 is a lot of money, okay, on my worst day, $4 has not been a lot of money, even though, okay, I've been at periods in my life where I didn't have $4. So I'm talking to you today about how do you control? How do you control? How do you discipline? How do you start monitoring what you're saying to yourself? I can't find the right girl. I can't find the right guy. There's no good guys left in this town. All men are pigs. Women cheat on their men. Marriage is hard. Having kids is difficult. I don't want to pay taxes. I can't help myself. I can't stop. I can't trust myself. I never do what I say. I procrastinate. I'm an introvert. I'm broke, I'm poor. So, look, what are you saying to yourself all the time? The first thing I did was I took a little journal out and I just wrote down all the negative things I say to myself. By the way, I just gave you the list, okay? I can't spend money. I can't save enough money. I don't make enough money, okay? I don't know how to invest in the stock market. I can't invest in real estate. I don't have time to do this. You know, the time thing, people just kill themselves with the time thing. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. Guess what? Oops. You don't have enough time. You don't have time. You don't have money. Catch yourself. Every time you say, I don't have time, say, hey, I create time. Every time you say, I don't have money, I create money. Or maybe just start literally like talking to yourself that, hey, I am a millionaire. I am a multimillionaire. I own, if you're in the apartment game and you want to be in apartments, but you don't know anything about apartments, you can start literally talking to yourself saying, I am worth, or I own 100 units. I did this for years. For years before I ever bought an apartment, I used to write down, I own 20 apartments that earns 12% cash flow. Over and over, I bet I wrote this down 1,000 times. I own 20 apartments. My first deal was 38 units. I own 20 apartments or more. And I write it in any little journal, any piece of paper, any legal pad. Every time you say something negative, write down, I need to lose weight. Okay? It's good. But you know, if you're running a race, you don't say, I need to finish the race. You're looking for you got to run, right? You got to run, you got to move, you got to keep moving your feet. So, I mean, you can sit there and say, I got to finish this race. But the truth is, if you need to lose weight, man, just once you pick your target weight and start affirming that I weigh 165 pounds. I weigh 165 pounds. So just switch it a little bit, right? All you're trying to do is discipline. You're trying to move the river. So if you're broke right now, quit saying I am broke. And start saying what you want. Where are you going?
There are lots of times, especially in the early days, that were very, very difficult. I think the most difficult experience I had was in 1990 when Oracle had its only lost quarter in history. And we've been in business for 20 years. Of those 20 years, we lost money one quarter, and we had a very difficult time because we had doubled our sales virtually every year for 10 years. 9 out of 10 years, 10 out of 11 years. It was really quite an amazing run. We're the fastest growing company in history. Still are the fastest growing company in history over a long period of time. And suddenly we'd hit a wall. We would reach $1 billion in revenue, and we were having serious management problems all over the place. And the people who were running the company, the $1 billion company, were the same people that had run the company when we were a $50 million company, 1/20th the size. And I had an incredible sense of loyalty to those people who'd worked with me to build Oracle. And it was a very painful realization in 1990 that I was going to have to change the management team, that the company had outgrown the management, that people who are good at running a $50 million company are not necessarily, those aren't the same skills. They're just different. Not one is better or worse. They're just entirely different skill set in running a $50 million company than a $1 billion company. And both skill sets are rare and precious. But we needed a different group of managers, and virtually the entire management team had to be replaced. And that means I had to ask people who I'd worked with for a decade to leave. I had to fire people. And that was the most difficult thing I had to do in business, asking a bunch of people to leave Oracle. I had no choice. I'd have to either ask them to leave Oracle, or everyone would have to leave Oracle because there wouldn't be any Oracle left. So it was, in that sense, it was a simple choice. It was thousands of people worked at Oracle. They deserved the best leadership we could find, and my primary responsibility was to the company and all of the staff, all of our shareholders and all of our customers, and therefore I had to choose. And if I couldn't make that decision, then I had to go.
Raising money always seems to be like the big thing to entrepreneurs coming in. Well, if I can only raise this money. Raising money isn't an accomplishment, it's an obligation. The best equity is sweat equity. You know, what you can do and seriously, if you're putting in the sweat and you're putting in the time and you're not out there raising money and you're grinding it out and you're hustling, then you deserve to give yourselves a hand, because that's what it's all about. Because if you don't do that, it's not going to work.